Florida's Palm Beach County. It was late in the evening. Mina Harrouff was sound asleep in her bedroom when she was awakened by a series of door knocks. Mina opened the door, and it was her son Austin Harrouff, much to her surprise. He explained, "The house is full of demons, but you can sleep peacefully because I am here to protect you." Austin would repeat this pattern in the coming hours and days, knocking on the doors of family members and assuring them of his protective presence. Austin's sister Haley, as well as his father, Wade Harrouff, were concerned. Mina divorced and found a new boyfriend 6 years ago, while Wade moved out and found a new girlfriend. In 2016, everyone in the family was concerned about Austin, whose happy and shy personality had given way to strange behavior. Austin, 16, was a different person when he returned home for the summer from pre-med school. He even moved his bed from his bedroom to the garage, claiming that the house was full of demons and that he needed to move. Based on his behavior, the parents could only draw one conclusion: Austin was on drugs. Austin had always been a shy, quiet, well-built, athletic young man. He was never aggressive, however. Austin's football coach and teammates felt he should be more aggressive, at least while playing the sport. Austin, on the other hand, preferred to channel his energy into helping others. So, after high school, he enrolled in Florida State University's 4-year pre-med program. Austin hoped that one day he would become a doctor in order to best express his caring nature. Wade Harrouff rightly dubbed his son the "happy boy" because helping others gave Austin genuine satisfaction. However, Austin wasn't happy on the inside. He felt his peers did not accept him for who he was, and he wished he could be more assertive and confident. "What I want to be is more confident and social," he wrote in his journal. "I also want to be more well-known because I currently feel unknown." Austin's feelings of inadequacy gradually took over, and he began abusing drugs. From alcohol to hallucinogenic drugs, MDMA to marijuana, Austin had set himself on a dangerous downward spiral. Austin's good qualities, which had made him the happy boy, were eroding, as was his sobriety. Austin had a complete mental breakdown by the end of his first year of pre-med. He was depressed and preferred his drug-induced highs over the bleak reality. However, in his moments of clarity, Austin sensed he was on the wrong track and conducted searches such as these. "I believe I am insane. How do you know if you're insane? What is the best way to deal with obsessive thoughts? Is it necessary for me to sleep? What happens if you don't get enough sleep?" Because Austin was not making progress, his parents decided to use the Baker Act. Under this act, individuals in Florida who have a mental illness and are in danger of harming themselves or others can be detained for up to 72 hours at the request of their loved ones. During these 72 hours, experts assess the subject and, based on their findings, a treatment plan will be suggested for the patient. But, before his parents could use this act, Austin made another uproar. On August 15, 2016, Austin paid a visit to one of his childhood friends. Austin's surprise visit was unannounced, and he only had one question for his surprised friend: "What year was I born?" The friend couldn't figure out what was wrong with Austin, but he did say, 1996. When Austin's sister Haley tried to calm her brother down, he turned to her and said, "I am a half-horse, and I am immortal." Haley felt the Baker Act couldn't come soon enough. She was aware that her brother was in critical need of medical attention. By 7:30 p.m., Austin, his friend, and his sister had arrived at Duffy's restaurant to meet Austin's father and his girlfriend. Austin's mind began to play another trick as they approached the restaurant. "I need to test my immortality," he said to his sister. And soon after, he dashed to the road, apparently to see if he could survive a car crash. Haley stepped in just in time, grabbing her brother and pulling him back to safety. She managed to lead him to Duffy's despite her panting and confusion. Austin quickly returned to his normal self inside the restaurant, but only for a short time. Austin stormed out of the restaurant, barged into his mother's kitchen, and began drinking vegetable oil. Mina observed this strange behavior and chastised him. Austin then went to his room to change out of his oil-stained clothes. Mina returned him to the restaurant, and Austin joined the other four at the dinner table at Duffy's 30 minutes later. Wade Harrouff, exhausted by his son's behavior, said something that irritated Austin in the following minutes. We don't know what he said, but Austin immediately got up, pushed his father, and stormed out of the restaurant. By the time his friend arrived to chase him down, Austin had vanished. Michelle Mishkin and John Stevens were a lovely couple who had retired. They sat inside their garage, watched TV, waved to their neighbors, and always had a good time. They used to take their dog in a golf cart and ride around the neighborhood. This couple's good neighbor was Jeff Fisher. On August 15th, as he was getting ready for bed, he overheard Michelle screaming at the top of her lungs. He dashed over to see what it was and saw a man slamming Michelle's car, which was parked in the driveway. Michelle was standing near the unknown man in the garage. This man's name was Austin Harrouff. Jeff sensed the danger and rushed to defend his neighbor, but Austin grabbed Michelle and threw her on the floor before he could. He then jumped on top of Michelle and began frantically beating her. As Jeff approached Austin, he turned around and warned, "You don't want to be a part of this." Jeff summoned all his courage and attempted to pounce on Austin, but Austin swung back and hit Jeff on the head. Despite the blow, the neighbor maintained his composure and lunged back to knock Austin to the ground. While Austin lay on the floor, Jeff realized that the first blow Austin delivered to his head had also resulted in a severe knife wound. Jeff was now bleeding. Blood poured down the sides of his head, shoulder, and neck. In this state, he had no chance against the 6-foot-tall, massively built Austin, who had just gotten back on his feet and was ready to go. Jeff rushed to what he thought was his only option. He ran to his own house and dialed 911. And he did it. Jeff felt dizzy while waiting for the cops. He couldn't get up and save Michelle, so he hoped that John, who had gone to walk his dog, would appear at the right time and save his wife. But the sounds he heard from his neighborhood were hardly promising. It was Austin grunting, almost like an animal. 2 police officers soon arrived. They discovered John on the ground with Austin lying sideways across his chest. Austin's arm was wrapped around John's neck. He was pulling out and biting John's cheek with his right hand. He'd already gotten several pieces of John's flesh out of his mouth and was chewing and eating them. The officers were shocked by this heinous act of cannibalism. They couldn't shoot Austin because the bullet could exit his body and strike John below. They tried to tase him, but it had no effect on Austin's body. Austin was so focused on eating John that when the officers kicked him in the face, he fell back but did not retaliate. He returned to inserting his hands deeper into John's mouth instead of fighting the officers. All he cared about was eating John. Austin may not have even noticed the presence of cops. A second set of officers arrived soon after with a canine. Austin's arm was bit by the dog's teeth, and he had to rip it through the dog's teeth, shredding his arms while trying to hook it back into John's mouth. This tussle between Austin and the dog lasted a while until his grip on John was finally released. One of the officers recognized the opportunity and kicked Austin away from John before leaping over him to smash his head into the floor. The cop then cuffed one of Austin's hands, and as he reached for his other hand, Austin screamed, "Kill me, I'm eating humans, kill me." More officers arrived and overpowered Austin, cuffing both of his hands. Finally, the cannibal was restrained. Unfortunately, Michelle had already died, and John succumbed to his injuries shortly afterwards. Jeff Fisher, a neighbor, survived. Austin became unresponsive as soon as he was taken into custody. Officers rushed Austin to the hospital, where it was discovered that he had consumed some poisonous chemicals, possibly from Michelle's garage. He was in a coma for 11 days. Because Austin had been abusing drugs, everyone assumed he performed his acts while high. However, the toxicology report revealed that Austin had only trace amounts of THC, found in marijuana, in his system at the time of the crime. So, while eating John's face, he was effectively sober. Austin gave the strangest explanation for what he did during the interrogation. After storming out of the restaurant following the altercation with his father, he said he saw a dark evil figure with a white face outside. He had run nearly 4 miles to escape this evil when he came across a garage and hoped the people there could assist him. It belonged to Michelle and John. But when Michelle saw Austin, she began screaming, and he thought she had turned into a witch. He had no choice but to confront her. He claimed to have seen another dark figure with a dog, most likely John. It is difficult to read too much into his version because it is incoherent and strange. Austin had no recollection of biting John's face or fighting Jeff or the cops. The public was not impressed by Austin's version of not remembering many events. They suspected he was making it up in order to plead insanity. However, renowned forensic psychologist Philip Resnick's assessment was different. According to Philip's report, Austin's fixation on biting off John's face, even while the officers and dog were attacking him, and even while he was threatened with a gun and taser, proves that he was truly in a psychotic state at the time of the crime. He claims that even when under the influence of drugs, a person retains a basic survival instinct, attempting to protect himself from potentially harmful violence. However, Austin did not defend himself, and even after being attacked, his attention was drawn to chewing John's flesh. According to Philip, Austin suffered from a rare condition known as clinical lycanthropy delusions. A person suffering from this disorder has the delusional belief that he has transformed himself into a werewolf. Philip wrote in his report, "Sometimes he felt like he was half dog, half man, and other times he felt like he was half horse, half man." In retrospect, Philip was correct. Because Austin had previously told his sister that he was half horse. John told several of his other friends that he was half dog. Austin was making wolf-like sounds during the attack on Michelle. Meanwhile, another mental health expert hired by the state concluded that Austin was not insane at the time of the murder. A judge ruled that accused killer Austin Harrouff is not guilty by reason of insanity in the 2016 murders of a Tequesta couple at their home on southeast Kokomo Lane in southern Martin County. What are your thoughts on the case of Austin Harrouff? I really appreciate your feedback. Thank you for stopping by to watch. Subscribe now to become a member of the Chris Crime Diaries family.